Maybe a quick fucking... Whoa! Man, I was not prepared. It's been months. I should probably film this video. You know what? I'm putting about as much care and effort into this video as the movie I'm reviewing, which is... The creator was, alright. Look, last time I think I came off a bit of a preachy dick. To be honest, movies nowadays are all pretty great, and I think we're probably pretty spoiled with how good they are. And people 50 years ago would look upon my complaints that I have and spit from down on their giant wheeled bikes. I don't mean to shit on it too hard. I'm sure there's plenty of people that love it. It truthfully not that bad of a movie. It's fine. I mean, you think, there's so many good elements. John David Washington has been incredible. Did I say, is it John David Washington? It just sounds so white when you say it out loud. Yep, John David Washington. You hear he's in it, directed by the guy that made the one recent Star Wars movie I actually had a bit of fun with. Completely new world and plot. Who knows what they'll do with it. It's not linked to Star Wars, so there's a chance that it could be good. Yeah, it falls flat from what I remember. And I'm doing a rewatch just for this edit. I'm not going to watch it all at one speed because it's not worth it. But I'm remembering a lot of my points as I go through. Yeah, it looked great. You know what? And through all the shit I'm about to give it for the next 20 minutes or so, I had fun, kind of. It was entertaining. The action sequences were alright. It looked gorgeous. I don't think I was ever too bored, but that's all it sort of was, is it just helped me pass the time. You're not going to be able to understand until I start talking about it. So I guess I should start with the video. Spoiler warning for anyone that cares. It's been out for a while, to be honest. It went to streaming services like right away. But, and if you haven't seen the movie, why are you even watching this video? You're just looking to watch an angry guy be angry for 20 minutes? Because if you are, stick around.
Take a step back, who that, where we at? Who we be is all you want and lack. Stick your 40 on the block, that shit was whack. Boom, 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 40 on the block.
So right off the bat, the film opens in a very, stock standard war story exposition dialogue of the situation and how we've come to the state we're in. I get how, you just want that like Star Wars credit roll of this is what's happened in the world and this is where we're at, so you can just be caught up right from the beginning. It'd just be nice if there was a bit more creativity towards it. They kind of did, because I think they went for like this 70s, the future of the robots is here today. That was fine. And I think that's going to be what I say towards a lot of the things that happen in this movie, is that, it was just fine. Nothing special, nothing too creative. We've seen it plenty of times. It gets the job done nice and quick. We're all familiar with it. It's part of the style, so fuck it. If it ain't broke, I guess don't try something cooler. Another weird thing was, in these war films, they usually have the general region of bad guys. It's usually, a country in the Eastern Europe, Asia area. This time, it's just the people of New Asia. For keeping hold of the bad robot AI. That then moves us on to introducing us to our star of the show, John David Washington, who normally is pretty good in movies. I don't think he did a great job this time. I don't know if I'd say it's his fault. I don't think he was probably given a whole lot to work with. His character motivation is he loves his wife. Then he will soon lose his wife, and he will just want his wife back. It is very easy, very simple, something we can all follow. Man, love wife. Man, miss wife. Man, want wife back. That is his whole thing the entire time. The motivations do not change. He kind of cares for the kid, I guess. Really, he just cares about his family. Man loves family. Anywho. And yeah, I think this opening scene really just shows off how non-invested he was. I don't know. This feels like a very emotionally tense scene. You're an undercover agent, but you've fallen for this lady so much so that you're about to start a family with her. And I'm just not feeling a lot.
This is real. You and I are real. This love is real. That child is real.
No.
I was not feeling his performance in this one, unfortunately. There's a couple of things in here that I think I'm going to mention throughout the film, so I may as well just start now. One of them is the robots, like, they don't really seem to be robots. Kind of, like, this robot has punched this dude in the face, like, 3 times. And he he's still pretty alright. Feels kind of silly. And then the other thing is characters just kind of being dumb. Stems from, in my opinion, lazy writing. Less so characters actually being dumb. Like, he's just told his wife to go upstairs so he can have a little conversation with his fake undercover buddy. And then a couple seconds later, he's yelling on the walkie-talkie, like, call it off. I'm undercover. Like, as if your girl is just sitting right there, Plus, not to mention, you've been living with this, your partner long enough to have a kid. You think you would know how much she cares about robots by now? And you're just going to hit her with, they're just robots.
What about the others?
What do you mean?
They're my family.
They're not people, Maya. They're not real.
Do you think she's going to buy that shit, man? It just sort of makes it feel like things are happening for the sake of the story. Like, we need the wife to know he was undercover, and the easiest way for that to happen is for him to forget that she's just there and to just say that he was undercover. But anyway, not important. I mean, kind of important. She finds out, she gets angry, and she runs away. And then as he's chasing her, she gets blown up. She doesn't end up dying here, so I'm very curious what the explanation is for how she survives this. Maybe the boats had like a tiny little mini submarine, something that they can just drop in. It's a big explosion, Maybe it's meant to make, when you find out she's alive, hit harder, I guess. But then you just start thinking like, well, how did she survive? Like, unless she wasn't on the boat, who cares? It's not like we need to answer these questions. People just want to see pretty robots on the screen. We actually have a scene here that I thought was kind of cool while watching it, where they accidentally wake up a robot that was a part of a family, and then as it's all confused and shit, it sounds like a human that's just crying out for its kid or something like that.
Distance! Farman! Her name is Amy! Is she okay? Amy! Amy!
And then they have to kill it. It's nothing. While she very much believes that felt like a real human. That was kind of cool. It would have been cool if you guys did more of that. Talked about robots and if they're humans or not. We don't really talk about that too much. We talk about killing them a lot. And John, he never really counters it. He never really fights for the robots, which is what makes him. He's such a weird protagonist. He just cares about his family. And then that's sort of it. He's not here to help the robots in any way. They're being screwed over. And even when he finds out that, they were betrayed, they were set up for the explosion at the start, he's never fighting for their side or anything like that. He just cares about his family. It's never really touched besides this scene here of, robots and how close they are to people. And it just would have been maybe cool to explore. Maybe the whole conversation of life in general. What makes one life better than another based on how it was created, based on what it does with its life. It feels like there's lots of interesting conversations you could do here, but you don't do any of them. You don't do a single one. We get introduced to the military people that need to recruit them. Again, checked off the list. Just some old generals a bit out of touch with life. And just throwing this in here because I noticed this when I watched it the first time, was just this little shot-to-shot continuity error which again, tiny little thing, but it happened a couple of times. The issues are with what we're looking at, you know? It's not even like a side character's looking one way and now he's looking that way. There's a shot where we're looking directly at a woman holding her crying child, and she's crying, and then it cuts and she's like no longer holding the child, but you can still hear the child's crying. So it's like, what do you want from me? You shove it in my face. You shove your laziness in my face. So I've got nothing else to comment on. And I noticed more as I was, going through this for the review, how there was a couple of other shots where, he's yelling at the kid.
Alfie! Alfie!
Moving on, they tell the guy that his wife's still alive. And they also mention that the robots have a very dangerous weapon. So come help stop the dangerous weapon, and also save your wife. He says yes. He flies up with the troops. Some really weird music plays. Yeah, there's a couple of weird music choices in this movie. So then they find where the secret weapon is. They kill a lot of people of New Asia. John gets split from the group, and he gets into the weapon himself. And then, whoa, look at that. It's not a weapon. It's a child. Fuck me, have we seen that before? They've got a dangerous weapon. It's a kid. Just a fucking kid. Another thing sort of been played to death. Of course, the kid's probably dangerous in some regard, which will be the only thing the kid's good for this entire movie, is just slowly unleashing its powers so that they can win at the end. It's so boring. It's just so boring. So now we got that ever treasured relationship of man forced with kid, now has to look after kid, but he has his own priorities. He will never love the kid until he learns to love the kid. He's about to pop the fucking kid because it's just a robot. I don't know who the good guys are in this movie. Maybe there's not meant to be any, maybe that's the whole point. Luckily he does not kill the kid because someone comes to save him. Is he going to keep his gun on the scary man? Nope. Why would he do that? Just put it down. Oh, crazy. It got him killed. Thank God he didn't have the gun in his hands like anyone else would. They just followed up with some more A1 writing. Our lovely duo is trapped in a car. And, oh shit, the robots threw a fucking grenade in there. Get down. Not to worry. Don't worry, John. Fucking Doggy's here to the rescue. Fucking Fido's just gonna pick up the grenade and just roll it down the hill, and he'll take care of it. And I wasn't gonna mention this. When I first rewatched the movie, and it was just too small that it wasn't worth it. But then they do it fucking again. They do it again later in the movie. And where, like, a bomb's been planted, and oh no, the robot's gonna die. But the monkey... the monkey will just come and pick it up and blow the thing up instead. Thanks, animals. You guys are great. Just top-notch stuff, you guys. Man, I feel like such a fucking Scrooge. Feels weird just, shit talking. What you imagine is just meant to be a cute movie moment. I'm just like, he was gonna die, but then the dog saved him. Isn't that cute? Isn't that funny? And that's just fine. There's nothing crazy about it. Nothing that cool. Nothing that it really serves besides just being like, oh, look at that. That's funny. The dog saved him. Woohoo. Hey, look, the monkey saved them. He then proceeds once he escapes to take this a bus of children hostage. Not even like a family bus. It looks like two adults and then the rest are kids. And he like knows that he's putting them in danger to go through a checkpoint to get to somewhere. Just doesn't really care. Because again, he's just looking for his wife. That's all he cares about. We also get this cool device dropped on us about halfway through the movie, where you can, if someone recently died, reactivate their brain for a couple of moments to talk to them. That's kind of cool. It doesn't really pop up again. I think maybe once. I guess we'll find out later. It might pop up once, but it's just kind of there again to just sort of get them to where they're going. No other real tie or connection. Doesn't even really tie in with the idea of robots and AI. It's just a thing. It's just a cool invention that just exists in this world because they wanted it to, because it would help them find out what happened to the characters. You know, who needs to write in a nice structural reason for how the war people can keep up with the protagonist? Just have them have a fucking machine that lets dead people talk. Fuck it. That makes it easier. Just do that. We just need them to get back on track. They've gone a little bit too far off track. Let's steer them. There we go. Right back on the path. Don't worry. They survived the checkpoint narrowly. In fact, it's kind of fun. The tone is very lighthearted while they're getting shot at, and all the kids are in the back getting shot at, but they're having a great time. They're cheering. We get to see the kid use its powers some more. Do we know at this point what it is? We just know at this point it can control electricity. Are we going to explain that? Put any restrictions on that? Fuck no. You know why? Because when the kid's power is to just control electricity, it can sort of do whatever we want at any point we need it to. Does the kid need to escape out of nowhere? Bam! Electricity. Does it need to turn itself off to fake its death? Bam! Electricity. It can just do whatever it wants. It can just do whatever it wants. As long as it involves electricity, the kid can do it. Because why would we need to write anything else? We'll just say the kid fucking did it. We get introduced to this other bit of technology that you can donate your likeness. Again, doesn't really matter a whole lot. Is just sort of brought in for, I guess, the very specific reason of thinking maybe the wife's not still alive. They've just been duplicated. Which I guess is maybe kind of cool. And maybe adds a bit of suspension. Because what other suspension could you add when his only goal is to find his wife? If you say she's dead, then he has no goal. So the only thing you can do to make it somewhat suspenseful is have an element where maybe the wife isn't alive and they just faked it. That's all you can do. We're now up to the part where he meets his buddy, and in terms of what we've learnt in this story is that the main character was undercover, fell in love, lost his wife, now wants to find his wife, finds dangerous kid with power, and then that's it. Then that's it. That's all they've done. And I bring it up because now we're at a scene where we might actually learn something. But we don't. The friend just says that, wow, this kid's dangerous. Boy, oh boy, I ain't seen this before. Sort of what we already kind of knew. You know, the whole reason he flew in there was because they said they were building this weapon that could end the war or whatever. So we already knew that this kid was going to be kind of crazy. And then an hour in, we're like, all right, can we learn a little bit more? The guy's just like, wow, haven't seen a kid like this before. No shit. So... what the fuck? We also got another chance to have a conversation about the overall topic of the difference between humans and robots. And the kids, well, I can't go to heaven because I guess I'm not a human. And that could have been another moment to maybe flesh it out a little bit, dive into the characters' motivations, maybe a chance for John to reflect on his beliefs on whether these robots are humans now that he sees a robot actually having these thoughts and thinking that. Maybe we can talk about this a little bit. Nah, just get next scene. Just a quick little scene to maybe make you a little sad because the kid's like, I want to go to heaven. And then that's it. That's it. Don't explore it any further. Too hard. I have to write. If we have to explore it further, that means I have to write them lines, and I don't want to do it. I'm trying to write these characters as little lines as physically possible. Don't make me do it. We do get a little bit of knowledge. We find out that the wife was a nomada the entire time. and that's sort of it. So that's kind of cool, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it would have a bit more stake if we spent a bit more time fleshing out Namada a little bit and how important they were, but it's only sort of mentioned like once or twice. So the very ambiguous wife character now takes on the role as the very ambiguous Namada character. So just not a whole lot really changes. We get a little bit. Maybe they heard my complaint. You know, maybe they were like, hey, this guy's saying nothing happens. Well, the wife's Namada. Did you see that coming? The wife is Namada. That's just fucking God. I remembered why it's taken so long to do this. Is I kept watching. I kept trying to watch this, and it just got me angry. It's just so lazy. And then so him and the kid end up getting kidnapped by I guess the rebels, the people fighting for robots and New Asia, who would assume to be the good guys, I guess, in this. But the very first thing we learn from them is their plan is to just sort of send the kid up to the big space station as a suicide bomb. So maybe they're not the good guys. maybe that's the point of the movie, is that in war there are no good guys. There are just victims. So wowee, that is deep. You guys did it. So we get to the rebel camp. John has had to sneak off and now try and get the child back. Again, just to touch base on these robots not really doing anything robot-like. He kind of just sneaks up and, whispers and takes the kid. You'd think a robot would be able to detect that. You think maybe it would have like robot ears that would know people are talking. No, it's just asleep like a regular human. These things are just regular humans, and that's the whole point. Maybe it's sort of like race, huh? Everyone who hates robots is just a racist, because robots are people too. We do actually get up to one of my favorite parts, which are these adorable little bomber robots. I don't know. Again, after watching majority of this movie and seeing the robots not really have any cool robot things, seeing a cool robot that's whole idea is to just run and blow up was kind of funny. Especially the part where he's like, it's been an honor, ma'am.
Command confirmed. Goodbye, ma'am. It's been a pleasure to serve you.
Launch!
But like, it's a suicide robot, so you would assume this is like its first and only time doing its job. So it just feels like a weird line, but they're kind of cute. The way they run is kind of funny. I thought they were goofy. It made me smile in otherwise bleak times, so I thought I would mention it. There's also this part where the war dude has a conflict with David, and is aiming to shoot at David, and he just kind of points the gun at him for a really long time, but doesn't shoot. It was very weird. He almost like pushes the gun forward before like shooting. Like he's like, he sort of looked like a wizard, like winding up his spell. Like he's like, Avada Kedavra, and he's about to let loose, but he's holding a gun, so he can just fire at any time, but instead he's like, I'm gonna, and then he gets shot because he took like 5 seconds. So the war people find out where they're hiding, and they attack the rebels. Gives the rebels a chance to trust John, so that they can take him to Namada. We get to the point where I realized in the cinema that I was going to make a video on this movie. The climax of stupid, lazy writing peaks at this point. The entire reason the army went to John David Washington was because they couldn't find where they were hiding Namada. They wanted to find Namada. So they use John, they go through all this bullshit to find Nevada. They don't even really end up using John. Like, sure, they sort of follow his path of destruction, but they just end up asking or interrogating one of the robots, and the robot tells them where it is. So that's already kind of dumb on its own. John doesn't even lead them to Namada. They apparently could have just done it without him. But then they find, and they go to Namada. And where is it? On top of a fucking mountain! Not just any mountain. It looks like the tallest fucking mountains in all of New Asia. It's just fucking sitting there. It's just fucking sitting there on top of a fucking mountain. So stupid. So stupid. stupid. The whole thing that the army people have is a giant fucking drone in the sky that can just scan for robots and fight. They did it with the first base. The first base they hid deep underground because they knew they had the plane thing. It almost feels so stupid that I must be missing something. I must have missed something while watching this for the first and sort of second time. Because there's no way that you can look me in the eyes, make this fucking movie, have the army have one way to find shit, and it's a giant fucking plane in the sky. And the one thing that they're trying to find the entire time, the whole sole purpose of this movie, because it's not about the characters, they didn't do shit about them, it's all about finding fucking the martyr. And it was on top of a mountain. What the fuck? If that doesn't summarize everything was written a bit lazily, then I don't know what does. I don't even want to talk about this movie anymore. I'm so pissed off. There's still 30 minutes left to get through. So we're just going to zoom past the end, because at this point in the cinema, I was done. Anywho, he finds his wife, but she's in a fucking coma, and he has to kill her. And I'm sure it's meant to be very sad. I guess I have a heart of stone, because I was not too sad. It didn't hurt. Maybe it was the performances from John and the kid. Maybe it was, just not really knowing much about the wife. It all goes bad. The army people show up. They blow things up. The army lady dies. So that's, something happened. That happened. Guys try to make a sacrifice, but doesn't matter. David, John, and the kid get swept up anyway. So the army has him, and then that's looking like that's it. But then the army dude is talking to John, being like, "You did it." But the kid isn't cooperating. Surprisingly, they give John one last chance to, help out. Because boy, oh boy, would we still trust him after all that he has done. Maybe they just didn't know. Who knows? I'm sure there's a reason. This film wouldn't do something without a reason. So he gets a chance to talk to the kid, to take it out peacefully. Crazy, it doesn't work out, and he betrays him. Who saw that coming, Chief of Army Man? Not you, I guess. And he hatches this great escape plan with the kid's limitless powers, where the kid, I guess, pretends to be dead, where they would not be able to figure it out till they were in the perfect spot. And luckily, they let him ride in the ambulance with him. And luckily, it happened, right in a tunnel, so that they could flip all the cars and then get out and get to the escape tunnel, which he knew about in advance, because he knew it. Don't think about it too much. It would be too weird. And then we would have to write harder, and we do not want to do that. And then he made it to the airport and got on a plane to the exact location of where they want to go before the military could do anything about it, on foot, just because they're that good. To blitz through the end, they end up on the space station. They have a plan to just take it all down and not die. The plan doesn't go 100% to plan, which is a shame. Again, the kid's power can do anything until it gets to a point where they would be saved by the kid's power. Now it does not work. The door is just broken. No electronics here, bucko. You're useless. You're just a regular kid again now. And we get this really weird final scene where the kid finds a room of the mum, but as robots. And at some point in the movie, I think it's when they found her, he took her brain, and then he's put it in a robot and was dragging her so that they could be a happy family together again. That's right. I think I forgot to mention another thing we learned was the kid actually came from the same DNA as the pregnant wife, which, unless you were 10, you probably saw coming. Not gonna lie. When the film is so narrow, its twists and turns it can give you will be just as narrow. So when you show just wife and kid dying, but introduce nothing else, The only thing that will happen is, turns out they're not dead. Wife's alive in a coma. That kid was at least made from the DNA of that kid, I think. I don't know. But yeah, for whatever reason, they have a room of the mum, and the kid it puts the mum's memory in, and was gonna drag it, didn't get the chance. So the kid gets to escape, and John, it looks like John's not gonna get his happy ending. But then there she is. After a whole movie of wondering, where is my wife? He finds his wife, and they can have their beautiful last hug together before they die. And honestly, yeah, kudos to the movie. They had one thing, and they stuck with it, and in the very end, he got it. And I hope now that we've gotten to the ends, you will maybe see my point of how all these tiny little things, tiny editing issues, acting issues, writing issues, above all else, writing issues, they just add up to what I see as a film where a lot of people didn't really care. Or maybe they did, and it was people above them that didn't care, so they just had to get things done, which I understand. You know what that gives you? It's just a just fine movie. And that's all it was. It was a reskinned, all-American war hero who's just fighting for his family kind of movie, but with a bit of sci-fi now. Do the robots have any purpose? No. Just that idea of, these two groups of people and how different are we really? Aren't we all just the same? If you want to make a movie that's just pretty robots and cool action scenes, why can't it just be like a short? Or like maybe a TV show or something? Nearly 2.5 hours of just, nothing. Of cool, pretty robots in a cool, pretty world. But does any of it matter? Does any of it make sense? No? Could it have? Yeah, kinda. That's what gets me the most. This movie had some good foundation to be something cool, Had the money, had the people that knew what they were doing. They just had to try a little bit harder. The actors had to try a little bit harder. The writers had to try a little bit harder. And this 5 out of 10 could have been bumped up. But instead, they just stayed for what they knew they could do, what they knew they could get away with. And it's just a whole clump of nothing. Don't get me wrong, you should probably try this movie. There's a chance you'll like it. And like I said at the start, while watching it, I was entertained. It was pretty enough, and the action was cool enough that I didn't fall asleep. But when I look back at this movie to review it, to analyze it, to think about it, there's not a whole lot there for me to think about because there wasn't a whole lot put into it. The creator, not great. All right, just fine. Not great. I give it, jeez. I'm gonna give it, out of 10, 4. Probably a 4.3.
I don't imagine I hallucinate, then levitate through the pain. I meditate, higher stakes, the devil's advocate. Since I was 8, classmates get blackmailed, freaking out the neighbors till they escalate. I feel like MJ in '98, hit 'em with my fadeaway. We don't wanna win, we want to dominate.